And good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name's Digital Dragon, and I'm a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Hey there, Armored Turtle, Zombie, Nick, Glenn Kaufman, how's it going? Welcome on in. So we're going to be back here today working on the box turtle. We've made a lot of progress in getting parts, I'll say pre-assembled. We've got all 4 of our extruders built and wired up. We've got our rear idlers built. We've got some new skirts printed. We'll just say that they're looking pretty darn good here, if I do say so myself. And yeah, I think we've got everything laid out here that we're going to need. I always say that, and then I can't find something that I want or need. Like I'm already looking for 2 packs of M5x12 screws because the 16s are great and all, but when you're tapping your own extrusions, sometimes they work, sometimes they're not tapped far enough, and you got to get back in there with a separate hand tap that's longer. And yeah, so I don't know where those are. Those were the last things I were looking for, but welcome on in, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Timor, welcome in. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody is doing well. So yeah, so today we're going to be working on, let's see, the box turtle, which is this little guy right here. I've got to remember on this particular, there we go, yeah. Each one, so my Mac zooms in and out differently, and I can drag the plane around, but if I try and do that on the Windows box, it does weird things. So this is kind of where we're at. We've got our 4 lanes with our respoolers built. We've got our respoolers wired up, the motors for those. We still need to do the end stop that will be the trigger for these, but we can add those in a little bit later. And we're going to start by building up our frame. And one of the things to do there is to get out the parts that we need. So these are the 4 printed corner pieces. There will be on these 2 sides here where they've got these little pegs at. Let me go to the big view. Where we have these little lips here. One side's going to be fine. The other side's going to have a little bit of built-in print and place support. You just need to snap that off. And then the other thing you need to do is put an M3 insert in that corner. And then your 4 corner brackets will be, your four corner covers will be done. Then you'll have your actual corner bracket pieces. These are the parts that the frame will join, or that will hold the 4 pieces of your extrusion together. One side's not going to have anything in there. The other channel is going to have a print and place support. This is pretty easy to get out. Just use a flathead screwdriver and slowly work your way around it, prying it up and breaking it loose. It's fairly tight, but it does come out. Just like that. And every single one of these print and place supports come out very nicely. And then what's going to happen is these pieces are going to basically key into that support material. So, or into the channel there. So you need to go through and just snap each of these loose. Hey, Mr. Wizzix, how's it going? Glad you're here. So, Zombie, I've kind of been out of things lately with some family health issues going on. Have you started your black box build yet? Or is that coming up soon? All right, so I'm just going to take those four little pieces and throw them away. So once again, these will be the actual corner brackets that will hold our frame together. We'll have some accent pieces on the corner bracket, and these little divot hole pieces are the key slots for your uprights there, and that's what will lock it in. We'll do a screw here and a screw here. We'll have some additional just corner accent pieces, and of course we can't do anything without some TPU printed feet. That's kind of everything that we've got going here. Now, I just thought of this, and the easiest way to build this is going to be face down. So I'm going to assemble it face down, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to have to take something apart in order to get our lanes to drop in. Okay? And the reason I say it's easier to do it face down is because of these parts here. So this will be a flat surface that will line up perfectly. And on the other side, you have a kind of a little bit of a weirdness here. And because of these little jogs and jips here, you're not going to be able to build it flat on the surface like this. We need to build it flat on the surface like this. Okay? So we'll start building it from top to bottom, and then I'll show you what we need to do. Sorry about that. So the way we do this is we've got 8 total pieces of frame. We've got 4 long, 2 short, or excuse me, 4 long and 4 short. So you're going to use 2 long and 2 short to make up top and bottom frame, and the skirts set up the space between them. So I'm just going to start over here. And once again, we're going to start at the top because this gives us a flat surface to engage with. So we'll start off at the top, basically building it upside down. It says to use M5 by 16 button head screws. Once again, depending on whether they're tapped by Masumi or DLL PDF, or if you tap them yourself. Excuse me. Every once in a while, I find that my taps aren't deep enough. My tapped threads aren't deep enough. And just switching down to a shorter screw normally works. And just like doing a Voron or anything else, you do one side, and then that'll clear the way to come in and do the other side. And one thing that we will work on doing is trying to keep things kind of square and flush. So kind of standard. We're going to take 2 other extrusions and put on either side of the extrusion we're screwing into and our corner bracket, because the corner bracket is basically 20/20. So by doing this, we keep the corner bracket nice and straight. And as you can see, this is very loose, yet I am threaded all the way in. So in this case, my threads aren't deep enough, and that's where I would need to go to a different size screw or different depth of screw. So 16s, just to be on the safe side, probably don't work. I know somewhere around here I have a whole box of 12s that I will use instead once I find them. For now, I'm just going to grab some M5 by 10s because I know I have those. Do I have... Give me one second. I may have a whole thing of M5 by 10s in the black. Maybe not. Well, that sucks. So I'll go to M5x10s. Doesn't matter, they'll be covered up, but I don't have that many of the black, so I'll switch over to my silver ones here. And once again, these aren't as structural as a like a printer frame. So switching down to 10 millimeter on here really isn't a big deal. It's more of the fact that I think they were trying to stay with what people will most likely have on hand, which in our case is normally going to be, wow, English again, will be M5x16. So I'm going to go ahead and just get 2 of these done up here on the short legs. Now I'm going to need a long leg. And of course, I probably should have just did both sides of these because that would have made sense. Making sure that they're going in the right or the same direction. Now, you don't want to tighten the last one in all the way, and you can probably set these in place first before you put on the end. So you've got 2 sets of sides. They're in 2 pieces, right? This is to make them so that they are printable on a 220 bed. And that way anybody with a common Ender 3 or the like would be able to print these out with no problem. And of course, I'm going to have an issue with these lining up perfectly, but there we go. So you may have a little bit of a gap in yours. My extrusions are probably just a shade longer than they should be, but that's okay. We'll basically go around and build this all the way around the corner here, making sure that we are adding in our skirts as we go. And welcome on in, Evil Diesel. How are you tonight? I'm going to get this started and get it close, and then bring in that. And once again, our ubiquitous square. That way we can keep everything nice and square as we tighten this down. Okay, so there's another leg. Pick one or the other. You can do a front or a back. Once again, the top is down. The top is facing down. So let me look at the diagram real fast. So this is browser window. There we go. So this is the back panel, which means our bigger hole, which is the hole for the fan, will be at the top. We need to pop out this. There we go. So we need to pop out this support material here. Once again, it should just be as simple as just applying a little bit of a pressure to it, and it should snap right off and pop out easily. Just like that. We need to do it on this center round as well. And there you go. Now, when you go to wire this up, there's the print and place supports on the side pieces there. You will notice a faint line going down through here, right? This faint line. That is another breakaway support if you need to break that away in order to run your cable later on. So, thought I'd gotten all these off, but I guess I didn't. But kind of where I was going here was that we're working at the top, so we need the larger hole for our fan to be at the top edge. So basically we'll be looking at the back edge here, right? So this would be the back edge, this would be that right side. So we'll want our piece with the square opening on this side. Then we would need our middle piece. Now the middle piece has a cutout. There's two different types of middles. There's one like this, and there is, used a different color, one like this. In this case, you have 4 separate lanes that are coming out with PTFE tubes. In this case, we're going to have one with the 4-into-1 hub with the sensor, and that's going to let us know that the filament is loaded to this point. Either way works. It's just if you're doing this and your only option is to load to the extruder and then to load to the tool head. This here, there's an option that's being worked on that will allow you to add a cutter at the hub versus one at the tool head. So you'll be able to bring it all the way back here, cut right before the hub, and then pull the rest of the way in. So whichever one you prefer, this hub piece is going to be at the bottom. We're building from the top up. So this will go in there in this direction with this open space facing up. And then we'll take our third and final end piece there, and it'll go on right there. We'll be able to take our other corner, which has plenty of cutting oil still on it. Geez, Luke. Thought I cleaned this stuff up before. Like I missed an entire side piece. And once again, this is going to line up just like that. And we'll put in our screw from the side here. Scoot this over here so I can get my screwdriver off the edge to get it lined up with the right height. Okay, and like I said, you might have a little bit of a gap. I've got a little bit of gap here. I'm printing in ABS, and so it's not a tight fit, and that is most likely because my rails that I self-cut are probably a little bit long, but they are at least all the same length. So it will come out square. It just may be a little bit long. Hey, Mon Light, how's it going? You're so sick of homework. Well, I would say just not do it, but I realize it's not your homework that you're doing. All right, so I'm just going to take this and rotate it around. And this side, we're going to grab our other side pieces. And get those set down in there. And we'll need another corner piece here and a front rail piece. I'll get lined up. I am going to go ahead and put this side in first. That way I can put in my my front whatchamacallits. I can put in my front skirts. The side skirts and the front skirts, there is no real top and bottom. The only ones you need to be patient with on top and bottom is going to be the rear skirts. And all I'm doing is just cleaning up right where we pulled that print in place support off. I'm just scouring that down just a little bit. That'll go in place. We'll grab our fourth corner. And this is where you kind of have to work things in a little bit. Okay, two more. Hey, Jimmy John, how's it going? Now we do want to make sure that our frame is properly aligned. So what I mean there is that the frame is flush with the corners there. And now what you'll see is we'll have our top frame, our skirts, and now we're at the bottom. We'll go ahead and we'll put our bottom skirts on. And they're just going to fall right down in place. And we'll go ahead and screw those together. One at a time, and this is going to bring everything together nicely. And once again, I'm working to make sure that these stay aligned front to back and flush there. Do this side piece. Did a really poor job. I must have been tired. This was the second frame I did, so I did a really poor job of wiping it down. Oh, and Diesel, when you get here tomorrow, don't let me forget to um, get you these. I need to get a care package put together for you because I thought there was that and there was did you still need those capacitors? So I do have a couple of those capacitors I sent you a picture of. $115 and 19% humidity. Rock on. Um, if anybody is interested, I've got another frame built, or another set of skirts for this in solid galaxy orange. And if anybody is interested and wants one, I'd be willing to print out the rest of the skirts in the galaxy orange with, I can either do the galaxy red like this and as the accent, or some other color that I have here in an accent color for you. And if you're going to East Coast Rep Rap Festival, I'll bring it. The one thing we need to do before we put in this last one is we need to get in our 4-into-1 hub. So we've got 2 screw holes here and we've got 2 heat set inserts right here. So this slides right down top to bottom, bringing our, which side is this on? Oh well, technically it doesn't matter. I can always just switch the exclamation point. I can't remember which side has the screw hole on it, but I'll figure it out. So this piece just slides right down here. It's keyed in so that this piece will slide right down in there. Make sure your wires are pulled out of the way so that they're not going to get caught. And this will drop down and key right in. And we'll have 2 M3 screws that'll go in here. So these are M3 by 8 screws. I'm going to grab M3 by 6 because I've got stuff on the 8s right now. And those aren't going to work. Not sure if 8s will work. So we'll see. Well, I would. There's no M3 by 8s in there. All right, now I'm going to lose it. Give me 1 second, folks, because I have a feeling that I left a package or a group of packages downstairs that came in from Amazon, because I know for a fact I ordered M3 by 8 screws and I know that I've received them. So bear with me 1 second and I will be right back. I will put you on mute. I'm back. Yeah, I knew. So there's some more end stops. M3x8s, some fans, and some more heat set inserts. Give me half a second to put these things away. And I'll be having to get some more heat set inserts when I get to 3D Printopia, because I know KB3D Chris will have the CNC kitchen ones, which are much preferable. And there's a set of M3x8 screws. Again, snug these up. They don't need to be cranked down on there. So how are you doing tonight, Mod Light? Timor, haven't seen you in a little bit. Hey, Jimmy John. How's everybody doing tonight? We're gonna lay that back in there now. We got this one in here. We got that one, that one, that one, that one. These two in. We're ready for our last one now. This is going to sit down in there. Just like that. And that's going to lock everything in. That was great. Sorry, folks. Promise you we're going to be making progress. Okay, so we're going to get these two put in now. Exporting and orienting all the newest. You know what? I appreciate it. I know Nero's made a comment here and there about how heinous of offense it is not to take the couple of seconds just to orientate a part properly before you export it. And while I get it, I also can tell how much work it is. You know, having to do that and remember to do it each and every release. So I appreciate it, Armored Turtle, because yeah, every one of these exported straight out and every one of them just worked, right? Okay, so we've got our basic frame here. And once again, there's our nice mesh skirts to look nice, give us plenty of airflow. I'm gonna have to reprint my other ones just to get that same type of look on them. So we got this, we got this. We could probably put in our fan real fast here. It's gonna be easy to do now that I've got some more 5-volt fans. Be cognizant, you wanna use that 5-volt fan because you don't have a 24-volt fan port on the MMB. And I'm not sure on the AFC what voltage fan port is being built into that. I would assume 5 volt, but I know that makes an ass out of me a lot, so assumptions are not always good. Ay, 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 ay. Assumptions are not always good. All right, there's one. These are Winson fans off of Amazon. I know some people have had, some people like them, some people don't like them. I've never really had a problem with Winson fans. I can tell you the GD Stein fan that I'm using in my first box turtle is loud. It is kind of loud. Of course, it's sitting in fans are loud, period. Let's just go with that. Fans are loud, period. We want to mount this so that the sticker is facing inward. And we want to do it in such a way, our motherboard is going to be based right in here. So we want to do it so that our wiring is going to come up in the right direction so it'll be easy for us to work with. You might have to take the wires out of that little kick-through slot, or you might be able to kind of bend it around on itself and get it through there. It all depends on your print tolerances and stuff. And we're going to use M3 by 16 button head screws on these. They don't have to be button head, but if you got button head, use button head. And these are threading into plastic. So once again, depending on your tolerances and your printing, it may go in there easy, may not. I know I had a booger of a time getting my first one done because I didn't have the print in place supports. So it did foul the thread some. This seems like it's going in there a lot easier. So we are putting this in here. Hey, Thunder Keys, how's it going? Welcome in. Really, one starts and then the next one doesn't. And for those of you wondering how I did my skirts, you have to do it on each individual skirt. You can't kind of do, I haven't seen a way of doing a single modifier that works across multiple parts because the modifier is on a per part basis. But let me see if I can bring this down here some way and show you. I'm just trying to screw these in. We're screwing into the plastic here. But what I did was I created, you bring a part into your slicer. You right click on it and say add modifier. And you make the box bigger than the perimeter of the part. In my case, you would remove the locked scaling so that you can scale each axis separately. Will you get started in there? Good gracious. And like on the side skirts, I think I was doing like 100 by 90, right? And then 4 millimeters high. And then be careful because when you tell it 4 millimeters high, for whatever reason, that modifier goes from 4 millimeters from the top of the modifier, not 4 millimeters from the bottom of the modifier box. So you do need to move it in the X coordinate position. And then what I do is I just drop it all the way down until I see the first layer of the inside of the honeycomb pattern go to the secondary color. And then at that point, you can stop. It doesn't matter if it goes further down beneath the platter. It's all good. Then you set that modifier to 0 top, 0 bottom. I was doing 15% infill honeycomb pattern at 90 degrees. And that lines this inner honeycomb up in the same direction as the rest of the honeycomb in the skirt. Yeah, these fans are kind of a pain in the tuchus. You're screwing them into plastic, and depending on the quality of your print and your tolerances, they may be good, they may not be. It may be worthwhile to go and chase the threads or chase the holes a little bit with a screw before you put the fan in place. One of the things that I did on the other build was I took a M3 or 3mm drill with just my fingers and chased the hole a little bit. Drilled it in a little bit by hand. You're only going down like, millimeter, half a millimeter. Basically, all you're trying to do is open it up so that your screw has something to start biting into. But there's that fan installed, and the wires coming out on the side closest to the wall here, our MMB is going to be sitting right in here. So this wire is going to plug in like right about here. So, okay, so there's our frame. Whoops. This is the right side up. Our hub is down towards the lower end. Our fan is at the higher point, and our wiring gap is going to come in at the bottom portion of the frame. Now, before I finish working on the frame, I'm going to do something that may seem a little bit backwards here, but I'm going to take part of the frame apart, and I'll show you why. This is the front top rail. You can take the top front or the top rear out, but you have to take one of the front or rear rails out. Come on. Okay, that rail can come out now. Now what we need to do is get our lanes in the right order. So from left to right, your lane 1, 2, 3, and 4. And remember, your lanes go in size or length of your wire here. Longer wire, you're going to be further away from your MMB. Or I'm sorry, not the MMB. You'll be further away from the... Darn it. The MMB is going over here. I put my mosfetti over here, so this is actually lane 4. So the shorter wire goes further away from your fan side, because this is the side that has the ingress for your CAN bus cable, and that's going to go directly into the MMB board. So your motor wires for your respoolers go shorter to this side, longer to this side. Your extruder wires that will mount at the bottom here go shorter on this side, longer to this side, because they're going all the way over to this board, where these are being driven by the mosfetti that's going to be hanging over here. So we're taking this lip and putting it in the side of that rear rail and making sure our wires get down in there. And the front lip of that rail is going to sit on this front piece here. And you're just going to set these in here and drop them down in here. Now this is where you're basically going to have to lift all of these up just a little bit and get them sitting in the lip of your front extrusion. Might be easier to kind of put it up on its side. Let them fall out a little bit. But what you're trying to do is get them all in that front lip. And then you can rotate it back down on the front sides. It's kind of a little game you have to play with rotations here. Darn it. And then you do things like that. And I think putting it up on its backside was actually the better option for me there. Let them all kind of lean forward a bit. Get them lined up. Don't drop it like that. And there we go. So we've got all of our wires in there now. We've got our, thought I had all 4 of my lanes lined up, and I don't. So I need to work this one back in there. What is going on with you? Get lined up. There we go. What you're looking for is your skirts to be on the underside in this slot, and then these to be in the inner slot, and everything's now locked in place. Now you can go in and add your 2 screws in from the side again. Call me Mon, everyone does. Oh, okay, Monlight, thank you for stopping by, and no problem bouncing. You'll hit me up in Discord, gotcha. Do I have use for PETG filament? Sure. I could always use some filament, doesn't matter what kind. Yeah, I do. I get narrow vision when I'm messing with things, especially fiddly things. My bad. We fix this. Moving forward, you build the frame with the trays in, and that's it. The spoolers can come in. Correct. So right now, there's the e-spoolers themselves. The front edge of the e-spooler is part of that lip that goes into the frame. That is one of the things that is being fixed right now, is changing that so that you don't have to worry about those pieces. Okay, so that is correct. Now that we've got that part in, we can go, if we wanted to, and finish building our corner pieces, but actually I'm going to flip this over on its back, and we're going to place some other things in here. Really, I found that I put on and take off these corner pieces so many times during the build. I'm just going to leave these pieces off for now until I get my boards in there and can kind of figure things out. So once again, the side that has the fan and the hole, that's the side that your Big Tree Tech MMB is going to mount to. And I'm going to mount it normally about right up in here. It gives me plenty of room back here to get my connector in and stuff like that. And then my mosfetti I put over here at the front of this side. So to do that, we're going to use some M3 screws and some M3. I was going to grab T-nuts. I don't want to use the roll-in T-nuts. I want to use hammerhead T-nuts here. It's just easier, I found, when doing this to use hammerhead T-nuts. Even though I hate them with a passion, it winds up being a little bit easier here. And I believe these are still called out for M3 by 8s. And I think we're done with the M5 by 10s for now, so I'm going to put those away so I don't knock them over. M3 by 16s we're done with. But yeah, they did go through and make those changes, which is nice. That's a good quality of life improvement after watching people like me fiddle around trying to make it work. And I'm not going to say cussing Armored Turtle out under our breath, but you know, it's fiddly. And no, I wouldn't cuss you out. It is what it is, and it's one of the reasons why we go through and we do these things and take part in the beta test, because Armored Turtle has probably put several of these together, taken them apart, put them back together again, and he knows the product inside and out. Where me and Thunder Keys and several others were putting these together for the first time, it's new to our eyes. We have different build experiences, so we look at them differently, right? What am I looking for? The MMB. These should be. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that these are a good 3mm hole, because if not, you may think that you have it tightened on the extrusion when what you really have is you have it tightened on in the plastic and not into the extrusion itself. So you got some small rolls of PEC Gs, 5 different color. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, Monlight. Yeah, I can always come up with them. BattleBots work good in PET G, nylon. What was I doing? This. I'm going to look and see if my M3 by 8 has enough room. That is probably not enough room. So we need to go to M3 by 10s to mount these, so that we have enough threads to actually engage the T-nuts and get into our frame here. An easy way to tell, put it all the way down in there and set it down. If you feel it bottoming out before the if you feel it bottom out in the channel before the part is flat up against it, or put it down in there, put this down in there. If your screw rises, then that's a good way of telling that your part or that your screw is too long, and you're going to bottom out the screw before you tighten the part up. So we'll get a couple of M3 lock nuts on here for T-nuts. Now, I know I made this comment before on the Discord in our secret squirrel room. But if you go with the mosfetti, you've got your 4 outputs, you've got your power input, and then this is the signal pin on your JST connector. These are 3mm pitch. Okay, your JSTs are normally 2.54, so you can't put a JST connector. These are 3mm pitch. When you go to solder these on, you get all the connectors. They're not soldered onto the board for you by default. So when you get your connectors, and the way that we're mounting this, do not mount this connector with the so that your wires come in from the edge, because you won't be able to get them in there unless he redesigned the lanes to make the lanes thinner. Mount it in the reverse so that you're putting your power in from the top here. That way you can use ferrules and get a really nice good connection there. Okay, so we're going to take this, we're going to get our drop our hammerhead nuts in there, and then I'm going to scoot it forward, and I try and get it kind of up close here to the front. It doesn't have to be all the way up at the front, but get it kind of close to the front there, and go ahead and lock this into position. Hoping that your T-nuts actually rotate. One did, one didn't. And this is why I hate hammerhead T-nuts. Good gracious, dude. Can I tell you how annoyed and pissed off I'm starting to get with this right now? I will try an M3x8 and see if it'll work better. Okay, that one turned, thank you. So it looks like it may have turned, but maybe not. Yep, that one didn't turn either, it's just tight fit, so. Oh, I know, I hate these things with a passion. My preference is always for the roll-in T-nuts, but every once in a while, like on panels and stuff like that, these actually are the better option. All right, there it goes. That one turned too. Yeah, the pain of hammerhead T-nuts. Okay, now the way that this mosfetti goes and the way it's laid in there, this is A, B, C, and D. So this would be 4, 3, 2, 1. Lane 4 is right here. And so we will strip these ends and bring it around here. And there is a positive side and then a non-positive side. That's how we're going to go ahead and wire these up. We are going to do ferrules on here. And because these are small, tiny connectors, when I do the ferrules on them, the ferrules wind up being really long, and those they're long in the connectors. So I tend to cut them a little bit shorter so that they're not as deep in there. 22. Right. We'll grab some ferrules there. Our strippers. And I'm going to do the positive wire first. Rolling T-nuts work sometimes. Well, actually, rolling T-nuts work most of the time. I have found, however, when I was trying to do these, on the first one, trying to get it in here and get everything lined up, that's where I figured out that having the screw down terminal for the power facing down, it was pushing this up some and it wasn't lining up directly. So hammerheads had to be the only way to go. So normally what I do here is I cut, in this case, I'm cutting it in half. So there's like 4 segments laid out here. So I'm cutting the end 2 segments off and just making this very short. I'm going to try just doing the 1 and see how it looks. Make sure you cover that end so that little piece doesn't go flying. Safety squints do not always work, people. And I've got to use a small screwdriver because my normal one there is too big for these. And make sure you get these all the way open. If they're not all the way open, these won't go in. It looks like I may have cut this one a little bit shorter, which means all of them might be a little bit shorter. Yeah, they're all a little bit short now. So normally what I wanted to do is I bring them up and over. I could potentially, no, the mosfetti will not fit between the lanes. So this is as far that I can get it. I might be able to scoot it all the way into the front there. But I did actually, I think with the routing of the wire here, I lost a little bit of length. So no worries though, we'll make this work. It just won't be as pretty as my last one because what I do is I use the screw down wire zip tie holders from the boron tridents, and I will zip tie everything so all the wires would normally come up, go right down around and end. I'm going to have these a little bit short. I'll be able to do that somewhat, but not completely on these. Because once again, the wire routing is slightly different on this version. And the newer version of these is going to be even better. So before, the wires were coming down at one side of On the original ones, one side on the side pieces had a cutout in it, so your wiring came down and through there. Now we have this dedicated hole here. There's going to be another one on the other side that's going to be for routing the light wires. So it will become a little bit easier to do all of this as we continue to build these out. And Armored Turtle continues to make, we'll say, quality of life improvements to these. Which way is it? Turn it. Go. Open that one up. That down in there, make sure it's fully seated. And give them the tug test. And we'll just kind of push these out of the way and we'll go on to the next side. Once again, I'm going positive first, then negative. Sunlube brand, you might see if you could print lambic here so I can design my cables for it. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, not a problem. If you need me to print some files, that's fine. I can get you some files printed. It's not like I don't have printers to work with. All right, take it easy, Modlight. Take it easy. And the reason I'm cutting these ferrules short, I don't like when the ferrules go all the way in and you have some of the metal exposed. I get concerned about that, leading to an arc or a short. So I will always cut 1 or 2 segments off to get them to be completely down in there and reduce any chance of a short. And I do this kind of methodically. I go through and I do one at a time. So I make sure that I have a good connection, that I have everything cabled to the right slot. If you had some, if you had wire like this that was red and black, 24 gauge wire, then I would use something like that because it would keep the 2 wires with each other. The hardest thing that you want to do is make sure that you're not mixing wires between the motors. And that's why I'm going from the first one and working my way to the farthest one, is to just be systematic and methodical about it so that I don't miswire anything. Okay. And then, like I said, I will be able to use some of those on these. And for those of you that have been following along on other things, let me switch the view real fast. So this is the bench side view. You will notice things are different over here. I'll bring you guys up over here for a second. So here's the new table that the rat rig will sit on. This is all 40/40 extrusion. This is a kit directly from Rat Rig you can get. This one is sized for the 300 Rat Rig 4, about 25.5 by 25.5 deep, 27.5 across the front inches. The Rat Rig will sit right up on there nicely. Right now that is 3/4 inch plywood. They suggest 20 millimeter thick something. So I may paint that. I may just leave it the way it is. And there are brackets. I don't know if you can see, there's some brackets like right there that you can screw up from underneath into the wood. What I'm going to do on this bottom side is basically cut 2 halves and cut the corners out so I can put 1/2 in and then put the other half in the front. And then I'll have a shelf that I can put, it's horizontal surface. It'll collect things. It's big enough that I can put boxes of filament underneath it. So I can stack filament underneath it and store filament that way. But yeah. So that came in yesterday. And I went through and got everything. Everything built up, and I cut that board today. For the lower shelf, I don't need to do the 3/4 plywood. I could probably get away with 1/2 inch or even 1/4 inch. So we'll see. Yeah, the resin printer's moved. In fact, I don't have a resin printer in the Dragon Den right now because the resin printer is over at Evil Diesel's house. He needed to borrow it because he had a large order that came in and he just needed additional printers for capacity. So he's had mine for a little while. And then it'll eventually come back and I'll figure out another space to set up the resin at. I do have on order, I'm just waiting for it to be shipped, the Tiny Machines little tiny resin printer. You've seen Acuna Mods and Uncle Jesse do some reviews of the units that they got from the Kickstarter. I just have not received mine yet. But that'll be a pretty small, cute little one that you can pretty much take anywhere with you. I mean, you're not going to do anything other than maybe a miniature on it, but all right, so we'll be able to get a couple of these running over here, so that's good. Once again, now I'm down to the last one. I will go ahead and do the black first and then the red. And I haven't checked the placement. I guess I can do that really fast. It's not like I don't have the 2 boards sitting right here on the bench. Um, so I guess technically these two boards can fit side by side. So you could fit this board right here, put the mosfetti right here, and then run everything over to the one side. I didn't even try and look at that. The only thing that you'll have to watch for is your XT30 connector and being able to come through the end here. So if that lines up right, which it doesn't, the gap or hole would have to be moved over to the left some to allow a straight plug in or unplug. The other thing I've seen is people will mount this here and then maybe do the other, like a mosfetti along the back or something like that. It's just the mosfetti won't fit between the two lanes because of the front levers, right? So it won't fit between a lane. Now, if you're doing the individual boards, you can mount that kind of right here in front next to each lane. And by individual boards, there are individual driver boards that were spec'd out to start with. The mosfetti's kind of a newer option to look at. But if you decide to do those, there's basically what I'm getting at is there's various ways to wire this up. The nice thing I like about the mosfetti is it's a single 5-volt power running over to this board that everything runs off of. If you're doing the individual boards, you have to run 5 volt to each board or kind of daisy chain them or something like that. I kind of wish I left these a little bit longer. Okay. And like I said, what I'll do is I will use some of these. They're just twist in. They're like a hammerhead nut that you twist in by hand. They have a zip tie. You can run a zip tie through them. Find out which way they go in and twist. And we'll just put these in and twist it up into position. We'll put a couple of these in here. And this will allow us to manage our wires a little bit. Now the bottom panel for this armor turtle, was the bottom panel designed to be slotted into the bottom or the inside edge? Like, is it made to be slotted into the extrusions, or is it designed to be screwed down to the bottom? I didn't really look into that very much. Partly because I wasn't planning on putting a bottom on this when I go to the show, because I want to be able to possibly, like show people how the bottom's working out and how things are wired up and running through here. I feel like I almost need one right there as well. I've got plenty of these printed out, so I can use as many of them as I think I need. It's all about just trying to give it a good look and held in place by the feet. Okay, cool. And yeah, that table with the resin printers did move. I am debating because I was going to put these two over here, but then I had a thought of kind of cleaning out the corner over here on this side next to the bamboos and putting either black box or the rat rig over there. And that way I can still have this area back here, but we'll see. I haven't quite decided 100% yet. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our MMB laid in here as well. So we'll get some M3 by 10s pushed through. And these may actually need to be 12s. You want 4 to 6 millimeters sticking out because that's what's going to give you the distance to connect things. Or I'm sorry, you want 4 to 6 millimeters of exposed thread to be able to secure things in the 2020 without bottoming out the screw in the channel. And there's just not that much here. There's 2 to 3 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and go up from a 10 to a 12. Okay. Get some hammerhead T-nuts on these. Now the reason we're going with larger or longer screws here is because we're going through the board, through the standoff. and the parts. So we've got, I'll say we've got room to work with. And I'm going to move this kind of forward a bit. Give me a second, folks. Sorry about that, folks. That was my dad calling. He wanted to give me an update from his doctor's appointment today, but he said it's nothing that's critical. So, okay. So now we've got that started. We're going to have our hub here. Once again, this is a this is the end stop for the hub that we would need to connect in here. And the hub end stop, trying to look and see where it goes. So the hub end stop on the MMB, let me bring up an MMB. Really awesome. Okay, let me switch over to this window and switch over to this view. Add over some. Okay, so on the MMB, well, actually, I'll go full screen because it'll be easier to see. So on the MMB here, the way we're laying everything out, this third vertical here is the RGB. Be very, very cognizant. Every single one of these verticals, the ground is the middle pin except for the RGB. You got to be aware of that when you wire up your LEDs. Okay? So everything else on the rest of these pins, we're going to be doing the middle, which is ground. That goes to the common. And then the other pin will go to the bottommost connector, which is the actual pin, the signal pin. PA3, PA4, PB9, PB8, etc. It is also very critical that you look on your board if you're using an MMB and figure out if you've got a version 1.0 or a version 1.1. There are different pin outs between them. One of them switches, I think it's the PB8 pin here. So this, we'll say the fourth, STP 1, 2, 3. So STP 4, it switches the PB8 with, I think, PA8, which is the enable pin for motor 1. So kind of make sure you're getting those in the right order, or you'll get some weird behavior. I don't think it'll necessarily throw anything up in smoke, but it will give you some weird behavior. At no point are you connecting 5 volt to any of your end stops. Okay, hey Shenanigans, welcome on in. Also, the way I'm going to wire this up, I am not going to use the STP11 or STP10. So these last two are left open. Okay? We're going to have the hub and then the extruders 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the triggers 4, 3, 2, 1. These are the end stops that I haven't wired up yet. So these will get wired in and added to these 4 right here. Then we'll have our RGBs. And then we're going to use PA1, PA0, ground, PB3, and PB4. And that's going to go over to our mosfetti for the signaling into the JST connector. So this will be PB4. We're going to go in the same kind of order that we've used for everything. So this will be the N20 respoiler motor lane 1, lane 2, PAO will be lane 3, PA1 will be lane 4. Once again, we'll pull ground for out of the I2C to go into the JST on the MOSFETi for the signaling. For the power, the 5-volt and ground power going to the MOSFETi, we have an option. I've picked off of like either the motor or sensor connection. I can also come over here and pull 5-volt power and ground and bring that wire up along the front here and drop it down, which is something I might do on this particular build, right? The fan, our 5-volt fan that we put in, we're going to add it as the 5-volt and ground here with PA0. We're just going to chop the wires, recrimp them, and plug it in right there. So our fan will be always on. Hey, Maker Viking, how's it going? Right? There is a possibility my fan wire is long enough. I think I could actually bring it all the way over to STP10 and do red into 5-volt and the black into PB10, the signal wire down here. And then we could try and set it up as a thermally controlled fan based on the temperature reading from the MMB, or you can just leave it always on. You have options here. I don't know how we're setting it up on the APC, the APC light board. And real fast, I just remembered something. So I'm going to undo this and take it back off. There we go. So we only have 2 boards in here. We need to go ahead and add the other 2 boards. And also, you'll notice that there's a jumper right there. Let me go to the main overhead view. So it's clear. You'll notice that there's a jumper right here at the end. If it's on the center and left pin, then it's power input. If it's on the center and the right pin, then it's power input over here, regardless of what you have on the board. Basically, it allows you to run, what is it, 2226s or 5109 or 5160s. So you can run them at a higher wattage. There is zero need to do that. You're just doing extruder motors here. There is no need to run 5160s in this application. And the boards are keyed. They will only go in one way. So just like RAM, make sure that they're in there in the right direction and seat these boards down. Now in this particular application with where we're doing a fan at, that fan is going to hit this first one and it's really going to just go around these other 2 or the other 4. This fan orientation would almost be better if there were standard step sticks on here and you could get it to go through all of the heat sinks. But with the way these heat sinks are, this is better to have air coming like straight down over the top of them. Quite honestly though, that the temperatures that I'm seeing on my other one are perfectly fine. There's no chance that we're going to get these too hot where they're going to start throttling or anything. Also, because this is CAN bus, you have a 120 ohm resistor that you have to do a jumper right here. Now, normally you would put that jumper on these pins to say 5 volt to flash CAN boot or catapult on here. Once you have catapult, you would remove that and move it over to the 120 volt. You would wire in your CAN bus cable, do your reboot cycle, and then you would go through and flash Clipper via the CAN bus. This is already flashed with Clipper firmware and Catapult. Why? Because this is the one out of my ERCFA. So this is already flashed, already ready to go. We don't need to do any of that. Once again, our 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 extruder motors will go in. And then we're going to have lane 1, 2, ground, lane 3, lane 4 for the respooler motors. Those wires are going to be joined together and come across to the mosfetti. Then we'll have our RGB, and then we'll have the in-stop triggers for our 4 lanes that I still need to do. And those are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we'll have our 4 extruder end stops. 1, 2, 3, 4. And our hub. The hub is the one back here. And that leaves these front 2 open. Once again, I'm probably going to pull 5 volt and ground from this front one and bring it around to power the mosfetti. And then I have the option of plugging my fan into the 5 volt and ground of one of these 2 here, or bring it all the way up to the front and maybe going 5 volt and instead of going to ground, take the ground pin to the PB10, the lowest pin here, and trying to do a thermally controlled fan based on the temperature that the board is reading. Hey Maker Viking, how's it going? Welcome on in. Now you can mount this here already. If you want, for now, you can kind of mount it here so you can do your wiring. I like to mount it down here, and that way I can get my wire lengths fairly close. And I bring this somewhat forward because once again, your cable's coming in here, right? And then it needs to do some type of jog to come into the XT30x2. So you don't want to have this way back here because then you're going to have a weird crimp on your cable. Move this forward towards the front and you'll be fine. What am I looking for? Oh. Figures. That figures. All that to say, in there, you little jerk. There you go. Just working on preparing the models for tomorrow's things. League reset. Oh, cool. I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Kind of feel like I'm slow rolling on this build, but you know, taking the time to explain it. There is no build manual for this yet. So going through, taking our time and walking our way through it. I am going to go ahead and bring my wires for the end stop here, and I really need to figure out which way that end stop goes in there. Like that. Like that. Seriously? Okay. End stop goes in. The plunger is towards the outer edge, so doesn't help. That still didn't. Okay. So this is the one to the outer edge, so this would be my common wire. Plenty of length, good. And this one we don't have to trim off or strip as much because we're going to be doing JST connectors on there. So we're going to do that one. All of these are 3-pin connectors for your end stops. So grab a bunch of your 3 pins. I've got a mixture, and these, because this is all black down here, I'm going to choose to use my white connectors because it'll make it easier for me to see things. I'm going to grab a bunch of these out of here. And I know I've got a bunch of others around here, so trust me, you get so many connectors and Big Tree Tech boards and stuff. I've got the little packets strung all over the place. JST are not something that I'm in short supply of. Yeah, beta tester input is what determines how the manual is going to be done. I really do think that like building, kind of doing the building blocks, if we can get correct wire lengths with specific placements of components, then building your 4 extruders and then building everything in subcomponents and then coming and building it in place like this will help, because you've got your respoolers on here. You can do that wiring. You can do your 4 end stops up here, do that wiring. Then you can start with your lane 4 extruder, and I'm going to bring the wires together and run them straight down the middle so that we can do the connections for each one in place. And it just keeps going right down that tunnel right there, and it keeps all your wiring going right in line there. I know there was another set where somebody has a modified lane and they built in tie wraps down here, so the end stop wire comes down through the tie wrap, joins with this end stop, and the motor comes down in tie wrap, comes around, and then either mounts here or mounts there somewhere. I can't remember. But I know that there's a couple of different places or ways to do it. I'm not saying which one's better, but as we get closer, I mean, you can leave it for interpretation, kind of like VZBot, right? It says this is how things get wired, but it doesn't say use this specific board and use this placement, right? It's really more of, you know, if you include the lights, they go relatively here. If you include this piece, it goes there. So it gives you options, and if you change up and use different boards or whatnot, it really helps. Now, I know that when I go to do my MMB connections, how can I put this? So when you're looking at your connector, the locking pins are going to be going to the left or to the power input side. That tells me that the wire that I just did, which is my common wire, which will be my ground wire, goes in the middle. Boom. Now, this is going to mount like this, which means 5-volt is at the top of this connector, and the bottom of the connector is going to be my signal pin. My signal pin is going to be either going to normally open or normally closed. Your extruders and your hub are set to normally closed. The other 4 up here are going to be done on the common and the center pin, which is set for normally open. They're still going to be wired up the same way here. It's just know that there is a difference in the way 4 of these are being triggered. Hey Slab Stations, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. And once again, this is going to go on the bottom of the connector when it gets connected in there. And then once again, we're going to come over, we're going to count 1, 2, that third one from the front is going to be our hub. So we'll connect that in. And we'll be able to run this straight down the side and keep it kind of down and out of the way just like that. You could also, if you wanted to, bring it up to the top and kind of do some machinations with it, you know. But with the way I've got mine cut, we're just going to put it right down there at the bottom. We'll take this one right over the top, and once again, we'll figure out where we're going to plug this one in at. The next set of 4 are going to be the extruders. We're going to go ahead and start with extruder 4 here, which is going to be the longest set of wires. And the way these go in, the motor goes to the right. I'm going to bring this down underneath and work to get all of these wires detangled now, because that's the greatest thing in the world about these is they get nicely tangled up. And what I tend to do is I bring these motor wires and the in-stop wires together, and I will zip tie these together to kind of make a bundle with these. And do that for each one of the extruder motors. That way, if I'm taking a specific extruder motor out, I've kind of got the wires that are related to that extruder motor kind of in a bundle. you can go through and do the whole brain fart. God, I just brain farted. Which way is? I have to look at the extruder too on which way the extruder goes. As far as the okay, extruder. Hide the extruder. Okay, it's the wire closer to the motor. That is the where the plunger is. So that would be the common wire. So that would be the ground wire for these connectors. So what I'm going to do is, since I've got these cut close to length, I'm going to go ahead and terminate these, and then I will, I'm going to terminate the end stop here, and then I can go ahead and collect these wires together and start bringing them together. The other thing you can do here as well is, what did I do with my whole thing of pins here? Did I knock it over? Did I seriously put, no? Okay, chat. What'd I do? Did anybody see what I did with my whole little thing of JST pins here? There we go. They got caught up with the motor wires and they got moved over here. Okay. I was losing my mind. Oh yeah, slab stations. I'm gonna have one of these at my booth. You're ahead of me. Thunder Keys, was that to me or Maker Viking? But yeah, it looks like there's gonna be what? KB3D, West 3D, Fabrico, and my booth. That's 4. And DLL PDF are going to have them. How about that? I'm going to have to, excuse me, folks, I'm going to have that one box of coffee pods that I got from Black Rifle Coffee Company. Every single one of them, I've been getting coffee grounds in my coffee. Like I said before, I don't necessarily mind it because I've been known to take ground coffee and throw a pinch in my mouth and do it like chewing tobacco, right? I've been known to suck on just plain roasted seeds before. But when you're not expecting it and you're taking a swig of coffee and you get a mouthful of grounds, that kind of pisses me off. Okay, once again, know how it's going to plug in. Put the signal pin in the right spot. And the wires are going to come down. You don't want to pull them real tight like that. You want to leave some a little bit of room back here for some strain relief. Otherwise, you may have pulled that out. So give yourself some room here. Thunder keys, or not thunder keys. Armored turtle. It would be kind of nice if on this piece we had a spot here for a zip tie, like right here above the trench, so that we could zip tie these wires there for strain relief. Right? We can give ourselves a little bit of loop there, zip tie the wire right there, and then that way we have a little bit of strain relief. So if there's a possibility of adding something right there for strain relief, that would be really cool. Zombie's going to have one too. You let Zombie into this party, or you guys, is somebody bringing one for his booth? Once again, we're going to use our ubiquitous M3x8s to screw this down on there. And just make sure that your wires are out of the way and you're not pinching any of your wires underneath there. And depending on your motors, this one is probably going to be real snug up against the edge of the skirts. Just be aware of it. That's why you want to print this stuff in a high temp plastic, ASA, ABS. Just the quality of the motors. Okay, so this is there. Once again, we're going to be bringing our wires down through here. We want to leave a little bit of a gap, and we'll zip tie these all together between this and our end stop wires. But we're going to kind of be going along in this trough area right here, because we're going to be putting all the other motors right on. We're basically building our chain here. So let me grab zip ties here. And I know, I could go through and do the whole twisting of these wires trick. I'm too lazy to do that right now. We could also, get some some wire looms and stuff like that. But I'll say this: if you do wire looms or something like that, just know that just one more thing to take off. Yeah, it looks pretty, but it's going to be one more thing that you're going to have to take off to do maintenance on this. So Zip ties are cheap and good insurance as well, so you can do a lot of zip ties like this. And I just pulled that cable out over there, damn it. What I'm trying to do is make sure that I put these zip ties on either side of where the extruders, the next set of extruders are going to go. That way, I don't have any issue with these zip ties being up underneath an extruder. I can get to them all and cut them if I need to. And this side, once again, there's our hub. So this one is going to go right next to our hub. And so there's a reason to why I'm doing this in this specific order is because we're going to basically be building and wiring from the front of the board to the back. And as you're cutting your zip tie tails off, just make sure you're cutting just the tail and not the wire, because that would suck right about now. Okay. And speaking of sucking, we're going to wind up taking this back off so that I can try and get that motor wire reconnected to the motor. And also, I know we just noticed, or we just mentioned it a little bit ago, but in the redesign of um, the front motor, the respooler motors, you're not going to have them screwing in from the side into the lane. There will be two screws at the bottom that'll screw in and it'll attach that to the lane. So it'll make it a lot easier to take the spoolers out or the respoolers out and work on them if you need to. And I think that's the other part. Once again, building these is one thing, and then making them serviceable, or more serviceable, will be the next step. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just sitting here thinking about something. So that's going to go here. This is my motor wires. And once again, this is lane 4, so it's going to come up here. I'm going to want to be able to kind of come up and around. So something like that. And I'm going to trim my motor wires right here. And then I will go ahead and re-terminate them. Now you can hold on to some of this wire as you start getting over here in the other two, or in the motor 2 and motor 1. You'll wind up with enough of this wire that you can then do your wiring to come across if you want to, or you can do fresh wiring. It's all up to you on how you keep things. And you notice that I just put that aside and I'm not going to look at it to see which pair goes to what, because I don't trust it. I'm going to go ahead and do one of these, and I'll show you how we can test which pairs go together. Once we get the JST connectors on here. Get a few of the pens off so that got plenty of them to use. And I think I just did the black wire there. Yep. We dropped live 50 heat sets. You've dropped 50 heat sets from the bomb? Rock on, dude. Because it was like over 100 in the bomb originally, wasn't it? Something like that. All right, so there's one. Red. So I could, in all honesty, cheat and just run downstairs and look at the color pattern. Or actually, I don't even have to do that. I have it on my phone. So I'll take a look at the color pattern on my phone. And that'll give me a starting point to look at. And I will test out the pairs here and see if they're the same. Because even though I got these from the same vendor, that doesn't mean that they were actually pinned out the same way. I've actually had a lot of motors ordered at the same time that came in the same package, and the wiring colors were different on them. So you really should check out each and every one. However, normally once you verify the pattern, you're pretty much good to go. Uh, so I think I may have cut a few wires when I did that and made it thinner than it's supposed to be. And I am hating freaking FEP wire sometimes. Anybody else have issues stripping FEP wire? Just asking, because sometimes it can be a pain in the butt. But I thank everybody for being here. I know my streams, you get a little bit of technical jargon, and then I kind of go quiet a little bit as I'm actually doing some build things like wiring. Because I kind of get lost in my own head trying to make sure I do this right, especially on stream. And I know some people that specifically will not do wiring on stream, but multimeter. Because this is how we're going to evaluate our wire pairs. I will look at the way it was wired up originally from the factory. But once again, that proves that the wires are in a set configuration. It doesn't necessarily mean that the way the motor was soldered inside is actually correct or will match up with that. So the way the wiring is set in here, it should be blue, red, green, black? Huh? No, blue, green, red, black. Blue, green, red, black. Damn it. I think so. Red, green, colorblind. So if they're too close together, I do have some issues. I'll give you that. But we're going to go over to continuity on our multimeter here. And what we're going to do is we're going to literally grab two pairs. So we said one was blue, and we thought the other was going to be green. So I'll put one of these on green, the other one on blue. And if I get a number, darn it. Make sure that your probes aren't touching. So I get 2.8. So these two are a pair. So I'm going to grab the other two, and they should also be a pair. And another check that we're going to do is, do they come out to the same number? Because if they came out to the same number, then they're matched. They come out to 2.8. So that's a match set. If those numbers are different, I mean like 2.7, 2.8, close enough. But if they're drastically different, then that's going to tell you that the motor itself, the windings are bad. So something is broken internal to the motor. Once again, it looks like the pairs matched. So I'm going to match up the I'm just going to kind of match up the same way that it was wired before. So first pair on the right, then the second pair on the left. Oh, and those are 3-pin, not 4. Sure that when you put these in, you are doing both pairs for a phase and then both pairs for the other phase. There we go. That's now wired up. And this is going to come up here to that first motor input. And once again, we're going to have to, I'm going to throw a zip tie on here just to keep this kind of neat and not going everywhere. How's it going, zombie? $118 to $70. Nice. So, zombie, are you building one of these, or are we just going to have one over at your table as well? Loaner? Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, I know some people have said, like, ooh, I want to put one of these on a tool changer, which would be really cool because then you could really do some cool stuff with a tool changer with one of these. I don't know of a slicer that will enable that function. Like, you need to do tool changer or you can do MMU because it's kind of calling the same tool commands. I don't know a way of tricking the slicer to be able to do an MMU on, multiple tool changer heads. So that would be cool. Okay, so one extruder motor in, we're going to grab the next one. The next longest connection here, we're going to go ahead and do our wires. And once again, the wire closest to the extruder gears is the ground wire or common wire. So box turtle is being set for multiple extruders. I'll say correct. Well, we're running multiple extruders for each color. But what I'm saying is like taking a box turtle and putting a box turtle on each of the 5 heads of black box and then being able to run a print with 20 colors. That is, you're either doing tool changing or you're doing MMU with a single tool head. I have yet to see a slicer setup that works with both in combination. RA set to do multiple lanes, do multiple tools. Really? Now, how do you do that in the software? Because that's something that the slicer has to be aware of, right? Is being able to separate multiple colors on a different physical tool head. While you're going through so many aspirin, that's not good. Aspirin will tear up your gut, but so will ibuprofen. They just go after different parts of your body. Once again, ground is always going to be the middle. And then when you do the signal pin, that's going to go into the actual pin, not the 5 volt. So make sure that it gets put in the right connect or right port of the connector based on your board. Hey, Pezliz, how are you doing, dear? Hope you're doing well. I apologize for not lurking and chatting you guys up in streams the last few days. I have been in a state of mental and physical exhaustion lately. So for everybody that knows, Mrs. Dragon's mom had a fall, so she's been out in Colorado. And on this weekend, I went up and saw my mom and dad and my brother at my brother's place. And on Monday, when we all came home, my dad passed out again, and my mom took him to the hospital. So he's been kind of anemic lately, and they had to give him some blood and do some other stuff. So that's why I dropped on mute real fast, because I was getting a call from my parents, and I wanted to make sure that nothing else has happened. So yeah, just a lot going on, and I've just been kind of wiped out mentally and physically because of it. Not sleeping well with Mrs. Dragon not being here, and every time I turn around, another parent's going in the hospital. So I will tell you that at this particular point in time, Mrs. Dragon is planning on being at 3D Printopia. She is going to come home. We are going to go to 3D Printopia, and then she'll head back out to Colorado again. All right, so we got that done. And what we're going to do is we're just going to grab this wire as well, kind of stick it up in that trough. We'll get this lined up and screw this extruder in. And this way, all of our connections are going down through the trough. Now, there's good and bad to that. One, it kind of gives you clean wiring. The downside is, if I need to work on this extruder and I need to take it completely out, I may have to take all the extruders out to get all the wiring out, but it all depends on what needs to be done. And like I said, these lanes may change. And I know I've seen a version that somebody did that didn't have these geodesic shapes in here, but he did have spots where you could route zip ties. And I am noticing that there are troughs here where you can run wiring down through some of these holes, which I didn't notice before. Is that meant to bring everything to the back, or armored turtle, or like what was the thought process there? Because I just noticed that those are there. That would give you the ability to like route wires down through the bottom and then come across like what I'm doing. But once again, the more that we do things like that, I'll say the more that means you've got to take some things apart if you have to adjust any wiring or do stuff with wiring. Not good or bad, it's just what it is. At least you can put printers on the table. Yeah. Box turtles, extruders equal number of lanes or number of tools per slicer. Yes. So on um like black box, it's the number of tools that we have. So I've got 5 tools, so I've got 5 tools in the slicer. If I was then going in and saying, okay, I've got 5 filaments on each of the 5 tools to give me a total of 25 colors or materials, um, how does that work on the slicer? Am I literally loading up? Like, how does it know that the first 5 colors are available on um, the first? How does it know that the first 5 colors are the colors available on the first 5 tools versus, whatever? I guess it would be literally. So I guess I'm stuck on how does it know when to do a physical head tool change versus a uh just a filament swap on a given tool. I guess that's kind of where my head's at in trying to think through it. And it may be something that's very, very simple, and it's just that my head's not wrapping around things reliably right now. Okay, so we've got the extruder plugged in there. Now we need to bring this around and come up for our next motor. You do a standard M600 macro on a tool head. Hence headaches. Exactly, Nick. That's where I'm like, yeah, that's what's blowing my mind right now is I'm not sure how to make that work. Okay. If you can figure it out and sell it to me in layman's terms so that my idiot head can wrap around it, then congratulations. You can probably tell it to anybody. Just remember that though, if you're trying to explain it to Royal Nomi, you got to do it in, things it's, what's it's, and what's it's. B5 would be BT2 lane 1 extruder 2. And tool 6 would be mapped to box turtle 2 lane 2 extruder 2. I should say physical tool head 2. There's a little gnome in the printer that tells the printer what to do. Yes. Yes to all of that. What am I doing here? I was going to start putting pens in. Did I knock things around again? Or am I just out of pen? Might just be out of pen. Oh, there's a couple there. A couple, three. Okay. All right, folks, it's about 8:30. At 9 o'clock, I want to call the stream, regardless of how far we're wired up, because I do need to give my parents a call back and figure out what the latest and greatest info is, because I am the conduit between East Coast and Colorado. So I'm keeping Miss Dragon's mom and Miss Dragon and her mom and brother informed on what's going on with my dad. And then when I call them, I get all the scoop from their side, and then I call my parents back. So I'm playing conduit in both directions. Rather fun. Goes in that way, black's over here. Yay, won it. Okay, now I need green. Yeah, so as of right now, this minute, Mrs. Dragon will be coming back on the 21st, which is the Saturday before 3D Printopia. So I will have to do a short stream that day or shorter stream that day so I can go pick her up. So you guys have to keep me straight that weekend. And then we'll go to 3D Printopia and we'll get back that Monday. And that Tuesday, she will depart again for Colorado. And I believe she's going to be in Colorado for the entire month of October. Leave at the end of, like right at the end of October, and not come back here. She's going to go and go to Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, for a conference. And then after that conference, she'll come home. And hopefully at that point, she can spend some time here. Yeah, lots of stuff going on. Oh, thanks, Nick Nick. Yeah, it's just been a lot going on. And all of this is also going on at the same time as my company has announced 7% uh, layoffs. Like they're going to reduction in force by 7%. And no names were given, and they won't be given until the 16th of September. So that's just another thing that's sitting out there in the wild. Pester all of our minds. How does a posi track rear end on a Plymouth worth? It just does. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I'm telling you, zombie. And I told her, I was like, hey, if you need to stay out there, stay out there. Don't worry about 3D Printopia. And I think she was like, yeah, I need the break. So yeah. she may be there. She may be back at the hotel in the hot tub. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm sure that she will say hi to Pez Liz and Austin and K2 and Chris and Chris over at KB3D and probably like Royal Nomi if she's there and a few others. So Karen Chow, she'll make the rounds. She'll make the rounds. Gotta be one that wants. Like I said, I'm choosing to use a lot of zip ties here to keep these wires a little bit straighter. You could twist the wires, you can do what have you, but I'm just choosing to do this. I'm also choosing to leave a little bit of extra length on some of these wires, and that's just good practice in case you have a bad crimp or something and you have to go back and cut the wire some, you have a little bit of length to work with. If it's very exacting in distance, you're kind of hosed if you need to move things around some. There's two. Come in and work on the third one. Once again, we're going to do the end stop first. I'm going to start with the common or ground wire. And by the way, Liz, Mrs. Dry was like, I just need, a couple hundred coins. I don't need a whole bunch. I about have an entire Polymaker box full. And then she looked, when I showed it to her, she goes, I don't need that many. But since you did, why didn't you do a bunch of different colors? You've created a monster. You have created a monster. I'm not sure. I might throw some different colors in there. I gotta go and see what I've got. There are chip collecting contests. There are. All right, so that's done. And normally I keep these for a couple of days and then I go, okay, I really don't need it. And then I throw them away. And that's normally about the time I go, damn, I need a rubber band. Darn it. All right, we need to get this in place before I forget. In 3x8s. Again, making sure that our wires are running right down that the kind of trough between all the extruders. Yeah, they're chip collecting contests. Awesome. So we could probably get, if the little one goes with us, then we can get little Goober just to go around and collect. If not, we'll have to see. Like I said, we'll see if Mrs. Dragon wants to hang out at the show and chit chat with everybody, or she does that for the first day and is like, okay, peace. We got a hotel with a hot tub, and that's where I'm sitting at. Because I wouldn't blame her one bit if that's the decision that she makes. Just because. Okay, so this, please come over and join this. And I know people were asking about how much this would cost. I'm going to say it's going to depend on a few things. One of those things being, are we going to be using like LDO motors? Are we using, what kind of components we're using? If we do wind up, and I keep saying we, like, I'm part of a company here, but if we wind up getting LDO motors on board, then of course it'll be more quality components, which will of course make it a little bit more expensive. But everything that is being built in front of you today is basically coming from AliExpress. So this is the second lane. So hub 1, 2, 3. You go this way, you go that way. Throw another zip tie on here. 3. Do, 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 do. Okay. Clean up some of these. Yeah, about 350 probably. And like I said, it depends on what components you use. I know most of us are doing, uh, the basic gears, um, not like hardened gears or anything like that, or hardened, yeah, hardened gears. We're not doing those. Your tool head, you're going to have whatever, but also be mindful that there will be various options. Like there's going to be the turtleneck, which is a um, buffer. And by buffer, I mean like the buffer on the back of the bamboo printers that your AMS connects into. So we'll have one of those, and that'll be turtleneck. And then we'll have, um, like I said, there's going to be an option. I know somebody was working on for a cutter at the rear back here. That'll be a different option, or you could do something like a tool head cutter like Filametrics, which is what I've done on my one downstairs. And I've got the parts to build new tool heads for Fay Dragon and Iron Dragon. So, yeah, those would be options. And it's all about, what you want to add. There is a 4-to-1 head that I've seen floating around as well. So think 4-to-1, kind of like the A1 Mini. You've got a couple extra parts like servos if anyone needs them. So the rear cutter would use a servo in the design that I saw. The Filametrics, I'll say, doesn't use a servo, but can use a servo to do the actual cutting. Or you can have just a location that you tell the cutter to go to, like a bamboo does, which is in the front. You basically tell it go someplace, it moves a lever that cuts the filament. And that's worked really well. That was the one part of the ERCFA that was working pretty darn good. The part that wasn't working really good for me on ERCFA was the actual, like loading and unloading a filament, which once again goes back to the servos and the quality of the servos used. Thanks for the lurk, zombie. And For those of you, I know I wasn't doing the reminders, but we are in September. So if you have thought about subbing or if you have a sub already and you want to go ahead and extend out, now you have subs for, I think it's 1 month and 3 month subs are 25% off, and a 6 month sub is 30% off. And as I had stated previously, all through the month of September, or while September is going on, if we get 10 subs during a stream, I will be doing teaspoonfuls of peppers. I believe it's the spicy habanero salsa. And if we get a hype train of level 5 or higher, I will also do a teaspoonful. And you can kind of almost get a 2-for-1 out of it, because when you do when we get 10 subs, that's pretty close to having enough for a level 5 hype train. So it winds up getting you a 2-for there. Unless they change the hype trains. I haven't seen a hype train lately, so I have not been paying too much attention to it. And once again, when you're doing your wiring, it pays to be pretty methodical. So once again, we're doing one stepper motor at a time with its end stop. So we're going through and getting all these done, and we're doing them in order so that the cable runs will lie pretty nicely together. Sure, our cables are kind of like each individual cable is zip tied in several places to keep them from bunching up and make things a little bit nicer. And then at the end, I'll be able to take these, the excess wire here on these motors and tie them all together and keep them out of the way over here. I'm going to have enough of a service loop in play. So if I need to recrimp or something, I will have enough wire to do that. And I'm going to keep my wires out of the way for good airflow like that. And I may hold off on doing this last one just yet. And what I want to do is I'll make some decisions. I think this is where we're going to stop for the night. I need to make some decisions. We need to go ahead and do our 4 end stops. And what I did the last time was just bring the end stop wire down, add another zip tie there, and route it through. And I just do all 4 of these, and that way I can get them wired in here, and then I can come back and add this final extruder, because when I add that final extruder, getting to any of these wires becomes a lot more painful. So I'm going to wait on doing the last extruder. We'll wire up our 4 trigger end stops, and we'll wire up the wiring that comes around to our mosfetti for the signal pins. And then we'll pull from the front. What is this? STP11. I need a 5-volt and ground. I'll pull power from that, bring it up and around and down into the mosfetti for the power. And we'll need power for our fan. We can add that to one of the end stops back here, and then it'll be an always on fan. Or I think we can probably come up and do 5-volt and signal pin for the ground. And we should be able to set it up as maybe a thermally controlled fan off of the controller thermistor. or potentially just run it, like I said, run it directly. That's how I have the other one. Um, I guess the other thing that we can do right quick is run the lights. We can run the lights. So I'm going to put this up kind of on its back here. And for those of you on one of the last streams, you'll know that we wired up our lights. Sorry, I got too many things out. So let me clean up some stuff real fast. And then we'll put in our lights. And once again, on those motors, I verified the wiring on one of them, and that's the way I wired all of them. Chances are that's going to be fine. If not, then, you know, if one of them is really making a weird sound, it most likely is we've mixed the phases and it's fighting itself. And we can go in and check out that particular motor and redo the pinout, which is another reason why you leave some slack in case you have to redo some pinouts. But we had done up our wire for our lights. So the way this works is we're coming towards this way. So our 4 lights will come in this way. And I'm just going to literally slide my light in right here through the front slot between our tilting lever, and because that tilting lever barely moves at all, right? We're just going to turn this around. We're going to need some M2 by 6 screws, or M2 by 6, M2 by 8. Where are my M2s at? Where are my M2s at? Are they over here? Yeah, they're sitting right in front of me. By the way, folks, we will have some of the box turtle stickers will be out and about around the show. I will have a few. Not going to have a huge amount, but I will have a few. These. And over to this. So the way these go in, you'll see the side that has like the indent, like this is straight up and this is the little round piece. You're going to take your light, push it through, and the squared off slots will be on the back on either side of your wiring. And then that's going to fit right on the back of your diffuser. And you're going to use 2 M3 by 6 screws to screw that into place. And this is all threading into plastic. So just get it somewhat tight. Don't try and crank down on it or you'll rip things out of place. Okay, and then this piece, and I'll show you on the next one because it's going to be hard to see where the camera's at here on this one. That one goes there. The next light is going to go in here. Okay, so the next one, we're going to grab our little set. Once again, our the light will come up through the back piece. Turn the back piece and set your light down in there so that your wires are right at the back there. And let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's the back of it and the front of it. So you've got the round side of your piece. You have to just slip your light into it, give it a 90-degree turn, set the light down in there, and now you can set that um, into your light, set your diffuser. Yeah. Set it on top of the diffuser, and then you're going to need two M6, M2, yeah, two M2 by 6 screws. So there are 4 lights. These are the lane lights. You have the option to do more, and that more would be if you want to do lights on the corners, in which case you would go ahead and extend them off of the 4th lane light, and you can put lights on all 4 corners, just the front corners, however you would like. But the first 4 lights go to your lanes. And once again, what I'm doing is I'm going to take the next light in the chain and I'm putting it right between the lever and the front piece. So you see that air gap there? That's right where we're going to be putting our light. It'll go right there. Back with the way this wire is going, I'm going to loop this behind it. Okay, so we're just going to take it, we're going to push it up through that gap. And then we'll bring it up and we'll do that next light. We'll get that attached. And once I get the last one, I'll show you how these are connecting on there. And once again, we're threading these into plastic, so just be careful. No need to, you know, hugga-dugga to China and back. We're just trying to get these held in place. Doesn't take much. And the last one, we're going to flip up there. I'm going to do the same thing and route the 3 wires around the back of the motor wires like I did on the last one. Flip that up through the gap there, maybe. Being a pill. Why? Why are you being a pain? There we go. It was being cantankerous with me. It was kind of a neat little mounting setup. He's in fairly well with the other piece. Locks everything in. Apparently I need like 15 hands and fingers to do this. If you run out of M2 by 6, M2 by 8 would probably work. M2 by 5 would probably work. Okay. Now we're going to put this down there. And let me close this up so I don't knock it over. Run those wires down there and set it down. So the way these are going to go on there is they're literally just going to slide in. There's 2 legs on the front of the part that go right down between the front of this printed part and the extrusion. So they'll slip in there, and as soon as they slip in there, it falls down into place. And you'll use 2 M3 countersunk screws to connect these on in this version. I'm going to caveat everything with in this version because as we've been talking, we know that there are new versions being made. And where are my M3 countersunks? Button head, pocket head. Whatever did I do with my countersunk screws? Do you by any chance remember what I did with them? I think they're over here. Countersunk screws. I thought I got a bunch for this specific project, but I may have just used ones that I already had. M4, M2.5. I think they're in here. Fours, M3. Ta-da! And once again, you don't need, these aren't like structural parts, so you don't need anything big. I want to say it's probably M3 by 8 is what's in the bomb. I'm going to use M3 by 6s. So like I said, I can't remember. I cannot remember what's in the bomb. And I don't think I have enough black ones in there, so I'm going to just use silver ones. I actually might have enough of them in there. I'm just going to have to pick them out. Easier said than done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. So I've got 8 of them. We'll go through and we'll put these in. I just think black's going to look better on the, since we have red, orange, and black on here. Once again, these are going down into heat set inserts. You can probably get away with M3 by 4s on here, actually, but whatever it's called out for in the eventual bomb, basically go get an assorted set M3 countersunk and an assorted set of M2 screw sizes, and you should be fine. So on the M2s, I will say, unless he specifically calls for button heads, get the socket heads. They're just a lot easier to work with and a less chance of you stripping them out. I found that the M2 Phillips head and M2 button heads, you look at them sideways or wrong, and the heads strip out on them, and it's just no fun after that. Yeah, yeah. Don't go too long. That's why I'm saying M3 by 4 or M3 by 6. It's just how long, yeah, how much you want to be screwing in there. But the heat sets themselves are 354. So between the printed part and the heat set, an M3 by 6 will work perfectly. And there we go. We've got our, what do we get installed today? We've got the lights installed. We've got the 4 respooler motors wired up to the mosfetti. We've got 3 of 4 extruders wired up, and we've got the hub wired up. We can go ahead and figure out our final length for our RGB cable here and get that wired up. So I'm going to say about like right there. I can wire this up real fast, and then that's where we'll call the stream for the night. Once again, I used red, blue, and black. Red is positive, blue is negative. Or excuse me, red is positive, black is negative, blue is my signal. And remember, we made the comment that this was the only pin in this lower row where the ground is in a different position. So once again, let me bring up the full display here. So in all of these pins down here, 5-volt is at the top all the way across. On just about every pin here, ground is in the middle, all the way across, except for this one RGB. We go 5-volt, signal, ground, which is the way we're running the wires into the LEDs. 5-volt, signal, ground. So that is possibly why this is the only pin that's different, but it's kind of a gotcha if you're not paying attention, because you're getting into that muscle memory of grounds right in the middle, grounds in the middle, grounds in the middle, and then you'll mess this one up. And as long as you put 5-volt in the right place, you're not going to blow anything, I don't think. But just getting ground and signal mixed up, you won't blow anything, but your lights won't work. So just something to be aware of. Again, we're going to do these one at a time. That's our 5-volt. Pin's going like that. 5-volt's going to be at the top. 5-volt goes there. Blue signal. Middle. Then black is our ground, which will go in the last pin. Of course, one that's going to be a pain, but Okay. Now I want to route this kind of underneath everything that I've already got here. So I'm just going to kind of lift it all up, make sure that this gets routed underneath it all. And the third vertical. So horizontal open pins, horizontal JST, vertical, vertical. Third one is the magic one that we want. Now we'll go ahead and take these wires and kind of loop them back around there again, push everything down nicely. And there we go. Once again, we'll make final determination of how I want to route that fan here in a little bit. So we've got the lights. We've got the 4 N20 motors coming over to our mosfetti. We've got 3 of our extruders. We need to do the wiring to come around to our mosfetti for signal. We need to do the wiring to come around for the mosfetti for power. We need to install the 4 in-stop triggers for our front levers here. And then we'll do, the final thing we'll do is our last extruder motor and in-stop, because that will be the way all that's laying in there. Then it's just making things pretty is basically where we'd be at there. And we'll do the last extruder will be the last thing that we do, because that's where we start losing access to everything down in here. But we're doing good so far. We are doing good so far. Just a couple more things to add in, and we'll be cooking with gas here. I'm gonna figure that out. That's gonna get in the way of there. Here we run that up over. Yep, no worries. I'm just thinking about how to route this one wire. That's no big deal. But folks, thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with me tonight. I know I missed Tuesday night. I couldn't get my head into things, and I was just utterly exhausted. Hey, Royal Nomi, how are you doing tonight, hon? But thank you all for being here. We made a lot of good progress. Our wiring is looking really good. Everything's out of the way, routed nicely. Our motors are all in place, and we've got most of our frame together. Just a couple of more things. We'll add our corners and our feet, and we will be ready to go with, well, we'd be able to test it if I had something to test it on, which means we might have to do a tool head over here. But yeah, I agree, Thunder Keys. I agree. So yeah, we made a lot of good progress on our turtle box. Once again, turtle box, turtle box, turtle, turtle, turtle. And we're keeping the turtle theme for a lot. I think I keep saying we. They're keeping the turtle theme with a lot of things. So it's going to be the the turtleneck is the buffer, and there'll be some smarts in the buffer as well, and that's what's going to allow us to add in more of these into one. So we'll be able to do just like an AMS and add additional feeds in. So that'll be the 4-to-1. Then you'll have the buffer system just like on the back of a bamboo, and that just helps keep things in sync with your tool head extruder. What else? Like I said, there are provisions that you can add LEDs down here and then add diffuser covers. there is going to be a solid corner. So rather than running a diffuser on here, you can just have a solid corner and no lights. I don't plan on putting lights in the corner of these at any point right yet. Just no need to. And you could run, like you could go into one of the extra lanes, and I don't believe there's any reason why you can't run RGBs off of any of the in-stop lanes, right? It's still 5-volt ground and signal. It's just in a different order. So you can set up your lanes on the standard RGB, and then you can stand up your corner lights on a different connector, you know. So we will say good. I'm doing okay, Royal Nomi. It's been a hectic time. Mrs. Dragon's out of town. Her mom had a fall, so she's been in Colorado for a long while. She's actually going to come back on the 21st and try and do a lot of appointments here in town that she needs to do, then go to 3D Printopia with us. And then the day after we get back from 3D Printopia, she's going to get on a plane and go back for the whole month of October to Colorado. And then come home from there and go directly to a conference in Columbus, Ohio before she comes home. So a lot of travel on her end, a lot of stuff going on with my family on this end. So just been crazy. Been crazy. So mentally taxed and drained for a lot of things, but doing this helps. Spending time with you all helps. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for hanging out. Yeah, everyone is screaming right now. It's all going crazy. So thank you everybody for being here. We need to find a place to raid out. It's Thursday night, which is historically raiding into Big Jano for marble races. Let's see if he is up and running. Ugly Moo, Babe Ross. A couple of people that are just streaming prints. There's Big Jano. Look at that. He's doing some things for 3D Printopia. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get the raid started to go over to Big Jano. Thank you everybody for hanging out with me tonight. Please come along and show the love with Big Jano as well. I know some of you are probably over there already. But thank you very much for being here. I will be here Saturday, and hopefully we can get this pretty well wrapped up, and then it'll be taking off a tool head and redoing a tool head on one of the other printers. So thanks everybody, and have a great night, and we will see you guys on Saturday. Bye now.